So when do the powerful in Jackson County start getting prison sentences? That's what I want to know as we kick it off on a Tuesday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning. It is great to be here. It's chilly. It's crisp, but it is still a beautiful morning across Kansas City. So the Missouri State Auditor, Scott Fitzpatrick, held a press conference yesterday where he flat out said the Jackson County Assessment Department failed to comply with state law when it came to your property assessments, and as a result, then your potential property taxes as well.
Our initial work has identified deficiencies and noncompliance with state law that's led us to believe that as many as 200,000 Jackson County taxpayers have been victims of an assessment process that violated state statute and trampled on their rights. State law makes it abundantly clear the burden is on the assessment department to make sure taxpayers fully understand their rights. But from what we have discovered thus far, in many cases that burden was instead placed on the homeowners who are left to navigate this process on their own.
That was Scott Fitzpatrick, the Missouri State Auditor, in a press conference that was put out and put together yesterday. You heard him say that they violated state law. You heard him say that your rights were trampled on. These are all the words that you heard yesterday from the Missouri State Auditor. But nobody in Jackson County, not a single person from the executive Frank White to, of course, Gail McCann-Beatty, the county assessor, has paid, forget a legal price, but a political price at this point in time. Absolutely nothing has happened to these people right now. Meantime, we're coming up against the deadline, of course, 12 days away from the end of the year when you have to pay your property taxes to Jackson County. And as we race to the finish line here, people are wondering, well, what now? What do I do? Well, as I understand it, and we'll have people on this morning who are going to discuss this further with us, but as I understand it, you are still going to be on the hook, but what you'll have to do is basically pay the taxes that the county claims you owe, and then you'll be able to, from there, talk about which portion of the taxes you are protesting. But they're still going to take your money. I mean, this was the kind of stuff that, caused the Boston Tea Party. In fact, I would argue this is worse than what caused the Boston Tea Party. You have everyday Missourians, in this case right here in Jackson County, who have gotten royally screwed, who do everything by the book. You do it the right way. You get up this morning. You're going out the door. You're going to work. You're trying to raise a family. Maybe you've done it. You're trying to put food on the table. You're trying to save a little money so you can have a decent retirement one day. You pay your federal income taxes. You pay your state income taxes. You pay your sales taxes, which are really high across Jackson County. And yes, you also pay your property taxes where you're basically renting from the government to own your home, which is a completely different story. You do all of that. You do it by the book. And this county is so freaking incompetent that they try to screw you and do screw you every which way. And according to the state auditor, it's not my opinion, the state auditor says that the department failed to comply with state law. And nobody has paid a price for it right now. Not a single person. I want to play more from Scott Fitzpatrick, who did this press conference yesterday. And I think it was a critically important press conference that took place. Here's more of what the state auditor had to say.
We believe the failure of the Jackson County Assessment Department to comply with state law should invalidate all increases in assessed valuation over 15%. We're here because we know that the December 31st deadline to pay your property tax is fast approaching. That makes it vitally important to share this information that we have with homeowners and Jackson County officials so that they can make informed decisions on what to do next.
So you saw a county that averaged, nearly a 30% increase across the board on the tax assessments. And you heard there from Scott Fitzpatrick that basically if you were over 15%, in his opinion, it should be invalidated. They should be going back to the drawing board. And what we do know as well is that there were a record 55,000 appeals filed in Jackson County. So you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of residents right in our backyard who are going to be impacted by this. Many of you listening right now. And you're hearing this from the state auditor, and I'm sure you're excited, you're happy about it. But of course, like everything in government, it took too damn long because your bill is due in 12 days. This does not change the fact that your bill is due in 12 days. This now becomes a long, drawn-out legal process that is going to cost time, headache, and yes, money. It's going to cost all those three things wrapped into one. So you're sitting back and you're trying to figure out, what's my next move? Well, I'll tell you what, your next move, unfortunately, is going to have to be paying these taxes and then hopefully clawing some of that money back, which is a whole separate issue and dilemma that has to be fixed at a later date. But there's no reason that anybody in this county should owe this county a dime, after the state auditor says that the Jackson County Assessment Department didn't comply with state law. So you have to give people money who are not complying with state law. How screwed up is this? I mean, you work hard for that money. I know you do. 700,000+ of you in Jackson County, hundreds of thousands of homeowners. You work hard for that money every single day. And now the county government is demanding that money in 12 days, even though the state is saying that they failed to comply with state law. This is ridiculous. Now, we are having the Attorney General. I don't want to jump to tomorrow because we got a lot of good stuff coming up today. But the Attorney General for the state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey, did request to come on this show tomorrow for some announcement. I don't know what it is. I'm in the dark, but there's some announcement that he's going to be dropping tomorrow regarding this assessment issue. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be, a legal play on his end. I don't know if it'll have anything to do with you paying your taxes by the end of the year. I don't know. I just know that announcement is coming from the state attorney general in Missouri, Andrew Bailey, tomorrow on this show. But for today, we are going to have Sean Smith. He's a Jackson County legislator at 7:20, just over an hour from now, to respond to some of this insanity. And also, on top of that, we'll have Angie Riccono, KCTV5, who has been all over it when it comes to this story. So she'll be here in less than 2 hours from now. And the auditor himself, Scott Fitzpatrick, is going to be on with our midday man, Ray Stevens, at 11 o'clock this morning. So that's going to be one of the most important conversations of the week. Ray Stevens will have it at 11 o'clock right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You know, I'm in a good mood. I just, I don't like it when we get screwed by our local government. And Jackson County has been run so poorly now for so long, and they continue to make headlines for all the wrong reasons. If you are a county taxpayer, there's some solace in knowing the state is confirming what you suspected to be true the whole time, that this county was wildly incompetent and was not complying with state law. But also you're sitting there throwing your hands up and saying, okay, what now? Because my bill's due in 12 days. 913-408-7957. 913-408-7957.
Feeling nostalgic today. We've been on about 6 years.
Yeah.
I think, remember the first month when people would call about the county?
Yeah.
The city. Then it was like the crumbling of KCI at that point and a couple of other items, I think.
Streetcar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right.
Here we are.
What a beauty. 6 years worth of material, huh?
Told you so. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I'm
not a told you so much as a warning. Just a harbinger. Yeah, it wasn't like you didn't believe, but it's like it's all laid out here for you, isn't it?
It is. And this is case in point right here at 6:14 on a Tuesday on KCMO Talk Radio. 913-408-7957 as we get it rolling on a Tuesday. I want to hear from you, Jackson County. How are you feeling right now? If you are a property owner in Jackson County and you hear from the state auditor that the county is not complying with state law, your emotional reaction and much more as we roll through the morning, plus new polling on Israel and Hamas from the New York Times. Where's the public stand on Joe Biden's handling of it? All coming up in the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO. Here's the question on the text line. Pete, as much as I feel for citizens of Jackson County, How much of this is their responsibility for constantly voting for people like Frank White and putting him in office? That's a fair point. I mean, Jackson County voters did have an opportunity last year to get rid of Frank White, and they chose not to do it. They chose to put him back in office and get him reelected. So I understand that sentiment. But this is worse than anybody could have ever predicted. And I can't put that at the feet of Jackson County when you have somebody who allegedly is not complying with state law.
Speaking to the percentages here, Jackson County voters didn't elect Frank White. Jackson County voters sat on their butt on Election Day.
Well,
and then a small minority of people, fractionally speaking, elected Frank White.
Yeah, Frank White got 118,000 votes out of, 750,000 residents.
I wonder what happened there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right. Teresa Galvin, who was a solid opponent and would have done a very good job as county executive, got 95,000 votes. So Frank White beat her 55-45 in that election last year for county executive. And, how much of this is at Frank White's feet versus Gail McCann-Beatty, who's the county assessor, remains to be seen. But Frank White certainly is not putting the fire under the butts of the right people at the county. And that's where he is complicit in this. He's not in charge necessarily. He's not running the county assessor's department, but he's doing a terrible job keeping his own people accountable to literally state law. Because that's what the state auditor is saying in this press conference yesterday, that the Jackson County Assessment Department failed to comply with state law. And that's why I'm anxiously awaiting for somebody to face some kind of legal ramification because, hey, if you and I don't comply with state law, there are consequences. It's amazing how apparently if you work for the government, though, that doesn't apply to you. 913-408-7957. On the text line, Pete, the only officials in Jackson County that ever go to prison are cops that Gene Peters Baker prosecutes for doing their job. Okay. You guys are feisty this morning. Let's go. Woo! I love that.
Must be out of decaf out there.
That's fine by me. It makes for a better show.
It does.
I don't look for the decaf. I have one coffee a day every morning before I come on the air. And if it's decaf, man, we're not going to have a good morning. All right, let's get to you on the phones as well, especially Jackson County residents. You're feeling it this morning. Let's get to you as well. Stephen kicks it off. Hello, Stephen. Good morning. You're on KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, how's it going, Doc?
It is going well. Going well there, Doctor. What's happening?
I'm all right. Listen, the texter just said basically what I was going to say. The sad part about it is that a lot of Jackson County residents are going to vote for them again. And my mother, I had to give her, she went to first school with Frank White, and she had to write a check, and she had to borrow somebody from me to get it done. And I told her, I said, you can't blame nobody but yourself because this is what happened when you got misinformed voters and they vote because of people's race and they vote because of people's political party. Even the members of his church are defending him. How can you defend him when he's holds you?
How could anybody defend Frank White right now, Stephen, and the job that he is doing from running this county, overseeing the assessor's office, the debacle that appears to be the Royals and the Chiefs? I mean, how could anybody defend the job this guy's doing?
Well, ignorance. It pays to keep people ignorant. That's how they hear. That's why they don't want to teach you how to build credit, build wealth, because being ignorant pays. It pays the people up top. And then I heard. I don't know how true it was, but I heard this lady, the Gaiety Bay, whatever her name is. I heard she was on vacation last week when the meeting was going on about the budget.
Yeah,
I mean, these people have no interest in you until they need your vote. Then all of a sudden you're important, and then it's back to business as usual. And the people keep voting for them, and this is the reason why. And I also heard that the most of the people that got holes was the east side of Kansas City. This is a prime example of what ignorance does. It pays to keep people in the back of the bus, keep people ignorant. It's just like the guy on Good Times, Alderman Davis. That's my favorite family, the Evans family. That's what they do.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the exact reasons why I moved to Johnson County and got out of Jackson.
All right, Stephen. Thank you, my man. You have a great day. Appreciate you. 913-408-7957. Wes, you're on KCMO. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, Pete. Think back to all the people that called in about their assessments, and every one of them said the same thing. It was on them to prove what their house was worth, and apparently that's against state statute. So I think this show, your show, deserves a tip of the cap because somebody listening to this was like, "Hey, that's not the way it's supposed to be down there." You know, it's on the county to prove what your house is worth. You had countless people who called in saying, "Hey, they've told me I've got to show them what the house is worth." So good job, you guys. And as far as Frank White goes, you may replace Frank White, but the next person is going to be just whoever they appoint. I don't know how their session works. Is going to be just as bad until the voters vote him out. Until the voters vote him out, it's going to be the same thing.
Thank you, Wes. Hey, listen, if we played a small role in helping push this thing uphill, so be it. But I feel pretty good knowing that tomorrow morning, and there's still a lot to get to this morning, but tomorrow morning, we are going to have on Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of the state, at 7:30, and his office told me that he's got a big announcement coming when it comes to this Jackson County deal. And I'm just hoping that heads are going to start rolling, figuratively speaking, of course, because you, the taxpayer, has gotten screwed at every turn by this county. And there's no doubt Wes is right. There are people angling for Frank White's job, and the people that want it that I know are just as bad, if not worse. So the voter is going to have to wake up. 913-408-7957. We got news coming up, and then we're also going to get you the latest new poll from the New York Times. Israel, Hamas, where does everybody stand? And when it comes to Joe Biden, that's next. See, I don't think this problem is as big as some in the Biden administration may view it to be. New polling out here when it comes to Joe Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict shows that voters broadly disapprove of the way that Joe Biden is handling the issue between the Israelis and, the New York Times writes the Palestinians, but that's not really entirely accurate. Younger Americans far more critical than older voters of both Israel's conduct and the administration's response to the war in Gaza. Now, the New York Times writes the split appears to leave the president with few politically palatable options. See, I don't think that's true. If Joe Biden continues to outwardly and then also privately, with the use of our intelligence agencies and our terrorism folks, if he continues to support Israel in its effort against Hamas to destroy the terrorists who slaughtered well over 1,000 Jews on October 7th, it will be good for Joe Biden. Now, yes, the super young, super woke, super progressive people may be turned off by it. But guess what? Those people have already been turned off by Joe Biden to some degree anyway, because he didn't bail out their student loans and all this other crap that he was promising them they would do, even though none of it was really legal. So they're already upset with Joe. But by the way, what are they going to do? Go vote for Donald Trump? Some of these people? No, they're not going to do that. Some of them might, but most are either going to still go vote for Joe Biden or they're going to stay home. But the win for Joe Biden here is a pretty obvious one. If he continues, and not that he's done a great job supporting Israel, he's doing it and the administration is doing it. But when it comes to what Biden is saying, he's kind of still doing the whole song and dance, straddle the fence and try to ride the fence and appease all sides because we can't offend the terrorists. You know, we wouldn't want to do that. So But then what the administration is actually doing is much more supportive than what Joe Biden is saying. You following me here? So here's the thing. If Joe Biden continues to do that, it will actually help him with potential swing voters that he desperately needs to win re-election in 2024. And I know it's crazy to say that this guy is actually going to try to get reelected based on his state of mind, based on his physical abilities or lack thereof.
Come on, man.
But he's going to try to do it. As far as we know, we're sitting here right now on December 19th on a Tuesday morning, and Joe Biden, by golly, he's going to do this thing again in 11 months, which is absolutely insane. But the polling that shows him down, right? The polling shows him down. Why? Because many moderate voters who were sold on a guy who was going to bring back decency to the White House, who is just Mr. Moderate Joe, has governed as far more progressive than many of those swing voters expected him to. They were blinded by being triggered by Donald Trump. They had OMB, Orange Man Bad Syndrome, and they thought that this was Joe Biden from 30 years ago. It's not Joe Biden from 30 years ago. Because why? Joe Biden has no convictions. Joe Biden has no beliefs. Joe Biden just does whatever's convenient in that moment, and right now it is convenient for him to be the most progressive president in U.S. history.
Maybe they had a cat named Decency when they moved in. Is that returning to the White House?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's a cat. We hear about the dog.
Yeah, we do hear about the dog.
We hear about the cat Decency.
Dog's always biting Secret Service members, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe the cat actually is a decent person.
Returning
Although
decency to the White House.
Yeah.
Kitty, kitty, kitty.
Decency's back. Come on, kitty, 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 kitty. I'm thinking of, what is it, Wedding Crashers?
Oh, my God.
Anyway, I'll leave it at that. There's my first movie reference. Where's Bill O'Reilly at 7:15 for a 1972 movie reference for us? I did. So here's where the poll stands. Amongst Democrats, do you sympathize more with Israel, the Palestinians, or both? Israel 31, Palestinians 34, both 16. Among all voters, do you sympathize more with Israel, the Palestinians, or both? Israel 47, Palestinians 20, 13 for both. So the age breakdown, by the way, 65 plus sympathize with Israel, 63 to 10. 45 to 64-year-olds sympathize with Israel over Palestinians, 57 to 14. 30 to 44, Israel has a 36 to 24 advantage. And then 18 to 29, the Palestinians have a 19-point advantage, 46 to 27. I mean, that's indoctrination right out of the universities is what that is for the 18 to 29-year-old. Because it's all done under this guise that Israel is the oppressor and the Palestinians are the oppressed. And in a college environment where everybody is billed as, everybody is identified as an oppressor or getting oppressed, that's the world they've created in higher education. So now you apply that to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, and this is how you get the polls that you get. Now, of course, there are innocent Palestinians who are just in the way. I mean, we understand that. We know that want no part of what Hamas is doing. But there's also a lot of sympathetic Palestinians who are encouraged by what Hamas has done. So it's obviously never completely black and white when it comes to war or anything like that. But Joe Biden would be wise to continue to support Israel, even if it hurts him with some younger voters. Because those younger voters are going to be between a rock and a hard place. Either they're not going to vote or they're going to have to pinch their nose and vote for Joe because it's looking like Trump's going to be the nominee. They're not going to have a good alternative that they're going to be, encouraged by. They're not. You think that these people are going to go vote for Donald Trump? I mean, they should because their job prospects are down. The economy is not in the great place. If you're a young person trying to buy a home right now in this climate, forget it. Like they should if they use their heads. But anybody who is overwhelmingly sympathetic and against what Israel is doing right now in response to its worst terrorist attack since the Holocaust, I'm not sure they're going to reason when it comes to why they can't buy a home in this climate. I don't know if they're going to really understand what we've lived through the last 3 years and why that results in an economy and a climate that they can't do the basic things that their parents' generation was able to do. I can hold out hope, but I'm not going to sit here and be overly optimistic about it. But this is not bad news for Joe. I know that there's people in the White House who are like, oh my goodness, what do we do? How are we going to handle this? We can't lose the young voter. We don't want them to turn on us. This election will be decided by suburban swing voters in places like Atlanta, Phoenix, Philadelphia. That's where this thing is going to be decided. Not by woke 22-year-olds in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. So this is actually, I know people are going to look at this New York Times poll and say, wow, this is really tough for Joe. He's got few politically palatable options, writes the New York Times. No, it's actually a pretty obvious option to keep doing the right thing, supporting Israel in its battle against the worst terrorists right now on planet Earth. America's not looking at any troop involvement. Help them with intelligence how we can and keep doing the right thing. And by the way, stay out of Israel's way when it comes to killing terrorists. Not innocent civilians, but terrorists. It's not difficult, and it's not as complex as the New York Times is making it out to be. 913-408-7957 as we keep rolling in the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Looking at today, we got a Trump event in Iowa tonight. Looks like Pete Buttigieg is doing a press conference at about 8:45 this morning. No idea what that's going to be on. I'll try to find out for you. But that wraps up. That's at the very end of Tirade Tuesday here on KCMO. So something tells me maybe Tirade Tuesday will go a little long if we get a Pete Buttigieg press conference to boot on top of it. That could be interesting. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Jordan Peterson, we've got tickets for you at 8:45 today, 2 hours from now. He's going to be in Independence at Cable Dahmer Arena. So do not miss that. It's a text-to-win contest here on KCMO. Now, speaking about loan forgiveness, did you know that they're spending billions of dollars right now on student loan bailouts and no one's really talking about it? We'll get you those details next on KCMO. What if the shoe was on the other foot here? Happy Tuesday. So we know that the Supreme Court blocked Joe Biden's signature student loan forgiveness plan. Remember, he was going to come out and Grandpa was single-handedly going to bail out every woke kid's college loans. I mean, you studied gender studies, you got a worthless degree, you're in $100,000 in debt, you can't get a job that pays you anything with that degree that you spent $100,000 on. Don't worry, we're here to help. We got you covered, baby.
Boom, boom, boom.
Well, the Supreme Court said no. But what if the shoe was on the other foot? The Supreme Court shoots down a signature piece of proposed legislation by, let's say, a Republican president, and that same person goes ahead and basically tries to do it anyway in smaller form. Do you think there'd be outrage? Do you think there'd be people who are beside themselves? Do you think there'd be some media coverage of this? Well, there isn't. I know you're going to be shocked by that.
Talk about a bombshell.
But I saw it yesterday from Axios that the White House, and I didn't even see this last week, so it shows you how little attention it got. The White House announced $4.8 billion in student debt relief for 80,300 people last week. So that brings the total approved student debt cancellation by the Biden administration to $132 billion for more than 3.6 million Americans. A portion of the relief comes as part of the administration's efforts to fix, quotes, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which wipes out student loan balance of public service workers who have worked for 10 years and made 120 qualifying payments. $2.6 billion of relief is going to 34,000 borrowers through this program. Another $2.2 billion is for the nearly 46,000 borrowers through fixes to the income-driven repayment plan. The adjustment to the income-driven repayment plan, writes Axios, will provide borrowers with an accurate count of progress towards forgiveness and address longstanding concerns with misuse of forbearance, per the Department of Education. So despite the Supreme Court blocking Joe Biden's large-scale student debt forgiveness plan, Biden has delivered student loan relief for millions of borrowers by circumventing the need for congressional or court's approval. So Joe Biden has found a way, the administration has found a way to try to buy votes by bailing out student loan debt, spending billions of dollars, and circumventing Congress and the courts in the process. Have you seen any attention on this? Imagine if Donald Trump was circumventing Congress after the Supreme Court struck him down to do God knows what. I mean, fill in the blank. It doesn't matter what it would be. If Donald Trump was circumventing Congress, or if any Republican, but, Trump's obviously the most recent one that comes to mind. If Donald Trump was circumventing Congress and the courts after the Supreme Court said, you can't do what you want to do, and he basically figured out a way to do it anyway, could you imagine the headlines on cable news? Dictator Trump, right? With a big picture of his mean orange mug all over the TV. Dictator Trump circumvents the Supreme Court, the highest court in the United States. I can see it right now. I can see Morning Joe and his veins popping on TV as he sits next to Mika, blowing a gasket over how Donald Trump does not respect the rule of law in this country, John.
It's the death of democracy.
Yeah, yes.
Rachel Maddow comes on, staring at the camera. You're not dreaming, folks.
Yeah.
This is a real.
Yeah. You do a good Rachel Maddow there. I'm about to break that out once in a while. Good job by you.
I was thinking of my mother when I did that.
Well,
what that says.
Well,
all right, just do your mom, and that's Rachel Maddow.
Well, yeah. To each their own. Yeah. Your poor mother. Not the compliment she wanted at
inner
6:55.
Dialogue, that's the voice I use.
Fair enough.
To play my mother's part.
Fair enough.
My inner dialogue, yeah.
Well, here you have a situation now where this is happening in real time. And the White House has announced billions of dollars more of student debt relief. And, I mean, you know what? They're just spending the money. And by the way, where are Republicans to say anything about it? Have you, this is where we know the media is going to do its thing and they're going to defend their friends and, cater to one political party. Maybe you've heard it. I mean, we got a lot of elected Republicans here in Kansas and Missouri, and I haven't heard a peep from any of them about Joe Biden circumventing the Supreme Court and continuing to bail out student loan debt to the tune of billions of dollars using our money. I mean, heck, it's not even our money right now. It's our grandkids' money at this point in time. And I haven't heard a peep from any of these guys or gals. Have you? I mean, I'm pretty much in tune with what each of them say on a daily basis, and I haven't heard a peep from any of them on this. And that's as disappointing as anything because we can't possibly know everything that the people in charge are doing with this administration. We just can't. We have to rely on, in part, the other side of the aisle to tell us what they're doing, to make noise, to scream about this, to say, hey, this is going on, and this should not be happening. And they're not doing it. They're failing at every turn. And now we just sit back and billions of dollars out the door for student debt relief months after the Supreme Court said, yeah, not a great idea. Wow. And if you want to actually fix this problem, fix the problem. But having the government cut checks and bail out student loans does nothing to lower the cost of tuition. Getting the government out of the student loan business would be the first thing to do. Having these schools be on the hook for their student loans is the second thing to do. Because then suddenly the schools will be incentivized to make sure they're teaching you something that allows you to make enough money to pay back your debt. Right now, the schools are not incentivized and have no interest in making sure you study something that gets you a job to pay back the debt. because they're getting their money regardless. And that's the biggest flaw in the system today, no doubt about it. Coming up, we've got a package on where things stand after yesterday's Jackson County meeting amongst the legislature when it comes to the Kansas City Royals and the potential of a 3/8 sales tax being on the ballot in April. It didn't go anywhere, and you're going to hear why coming up next on KCMO 95.7 FM. Well, Jackson County proved itself to be a joke in two ways yesterday. The first way is how we led off the show, and that was with the state auditor saying in a press conference yesterday that the Jackson County Assessment Department failed to comply with state law. And the other way was on the Royals, where the Jackson County legislature voted down an ordinance to put the 3/8 sales tax extension on the April ballot. Now, this doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it means it's probably dead until the new year, because you and I both know, next Monday's Christmas, Monday after that's the new year. So the next 2 Mondays are out for the legislature, and that means January 8th is the next Monday that there's a possibility for this to happen. So basically, this was popped on the agenda late last week, where the ordinance, if it passed, would have approved ballot language for a 3/8 sales tax extension for you, the Jackson County voter, to vote on in April. Where right now you have a 3/8 sales tax across the county, and that money is split between the Royals and the Chiefs. There are those in the county who just want to extend that. The Chiefs and the Royals at this point just want to extend that. The Royals want to obviously build the new stadium somewhere, whether it's downtown or the East Village or wherever. And the Chiefs, according to reports, want to renovate Arrowhead. They want to keep Arrowhead. They want to stay where they are, but they obviously want to do renovations. So this would give them the local sales tax dollars to start that process, and then the state would potentially chip in some monies as well. Well, the Jackson County legislature is infighting so much and is full of such a bunch of, it's just one big clown show. That's what the county legislature is. It's a lot of people who are looking out for their own personal political futures. A lot of them want to be the next county executive. So they literally can't even get something like this on the ballot to let you decide whether or not you want to extend the sales tax.
Kind of like the inmates running the asylum, actually, lack of leadership.
There's a lot of that. You're right. Frank White is not a leader. And as a result, you have these legislators who are all looking out for themselves and their own futures, and it's a total mess. So this failed yesterday. They have about a month before they have to get this thing on the ballot. January 23rd is the deadline for if Jackson County wants to get an April ballot vote. They have to get the ballot language approved by January 23rd. So that is, just over a month from now. They'll have a meeting on the 8th, Monday, the 8th of January, the 15th. And then is MLK Day the 22nd? I think it is. So probably that next Tuesday is the 23rd. So anyway, KCTV5 was there, and it went exactly as you would expected, starting with Frank White.
Oh, there's no deal. We're working with the teams. We're moving along as fast as we can.
Some believe.
As fast as we can. Frank White, we're moving as fast as we can. That's a good one, Frank. There's one thing you're not moving, and it's fast. I promise you that. That's embarrassing.
MLK Day is going to be on payday. It's going to be on the 15th.
Oh, it is? Okay, It's on the 15th.
It's right there a week after we get back to the first week. Right?
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm. Another holiday, federal holiday.
Another holiday. Well, we're going to be here, by the way, on MLK Day. So there's Frank White saying he's moving as fast as he possibly can, which is just comical.
Passing the ordinance today would be putting the cart before the horse.
It was not discussed with anyone. It was put on at literally the last minute on Thursday of last week so that it would make today's legislative meeting. This hasn't been discussed. No one had seen this. It all came at us all at once.
Still, there is urgency amongst some of the legislators to be ready to go to the ballot sooner than later.
Knowing the way the county executive vetoes things around here, I would say probably around January 8th.
Right now, this stadium tax extension is causing a lot of finger pointing.
I think Jalen Anderson's effort to try and drag this out now was just a political ploy for the county executive.
We need to have a contract done with the Royals and the Chiefs before we vote on the 3/8 sales tax.
Now, neither team has decided where they're going to build yet.
By no means is Clay County and North Kansas City out of the running for this. There are currently meetings going on with different entities involved.
Bottom line, it seems like negotiations on both sides of the river are no closer to getting done.
I think the bottom line is that you can't rush into a 40-year deal. I mean, I'll be gone. My grandkids will be trying to figure out what they're doing.
Well, God willing, that's Frank White at the end. No one else in Frank White's family ever comes close to political power in this community. We've seen enough of the White family, destroying counties firsthand. So we don't need more of that. I'm hopeful that Frank White, I know his son is with the KCATA, but God willing, anybody else in Frank White's family comes nowhere close to political power in this region. So when Frank White says there at the end, my grandkids will be figuring this out. No, hopefully they won't be. I'd like to think the Jackson County voter will have wised up by then, but who the heck knows? So clearly, you've got a lot of infighting in the Jackson County legislature. That's what you have. That's what's driving this. And that's why nothing is getting done on this issue. Because everybody's looking out for themselves. And then Frank White's saying, well, you don't want to rush this stuff. Well, Frank, you got a month until the deadline. And the next 2 weeks are out because of Christmas and New Year's. So you tell me. I mean, no one's saying you got to rush it. No one wants you to rush a bad deal for the taxpayer. But, man, as far as I can tell, the Chiefs and the Royals are saying, hey, we just want to continue the deal we currently have in place. And that's extend the 3/8 cent sales tax and then split it between the two teams. That's it. And the reason the April timeline is so important is because the Royals, and more so the Chiefs, believe they can get some monies from Governor Mike Parson. And this is the last year that Governor Mike Parson is in office. So if they want to get some monies from the state to potentially help them out with renovations or a new stadium in the Royals case, well, they have to get that done this spring so the state knows what they need to chip in based on how the voters vote in April. And I believe the voters would overwhelmingly pass an extension of this sales tax. Not that I really think the Royals need a new stadium, but I do think that sales tax would pass, and would pass fairly easily. Because it wouldn't be a new tax, it would be an extension of a sales tax. Now, you heard from Jerry Nolte there, the Clay County presiding commissioner, as he was getting blown away in the wind up in Clay County in that piece. You heard him say there that Clay County is still in the mix. Okay, they're not out of it. But as I've felt for the last couple of weeks, the Royals have had every opportunity to tell Jackson County to pound sand, and they haven't done it. If they really liked Clay County that much, if they thought Clay County was that viable of an option, and I do think it's a good location for them, but I don't think the Royals think it's a good location for them, because if they really liked it, they would have gone by now. Jackson County is such a mess, they would have decided Clay County's the place for us, and they're not doing it. So what does that tell you? Coming up, Sean Smith is a Jackson County legislator. We're going to ask him about this topic, the Royals issue, the 3/8 cent sales tax extension, and yes, what the state auditor put out yesterday in a press conference where Scott Fitzpatrick said in an audit, the Jackson County Assessment Department failed to comply with state law. Jackson County legislator Sean Smith is next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. If you have called the show this morning and you've talked to the great John Anthony or our man Garner, who's also helping out over the next few weeks here on KCMO, who's doing a great job running the board, helping out John, helping me out, keeping us all in line here. It's a tough job, but Garner's doing a good work at it. If you notice that John's maybe a little more surly than usual, which is tough to do, but if you notice that, I might have the answer as to why here. So, headline story that's gone all over the internet over the last 24 hours. McDonald's Filet-O-Fish fans are claiming it's shrinking in size, and they're now referring to it as the McMinnow, which is actually pretty funny. So this started going viral on TikTok, which once again, I'm not going to be on TikTok. You're not going to find me there. But videos started going viral on TikTok suggesting that McDonald's has shrunk the Filet-O-Fish, shrunk the patty size of the Filet-O-Fish. And now McDonald's is putting out a statement, by the way. So this has gotten so serious, McDonald's is putting out an official statement on this. A spokesperson told Business Insider the size and the build of the Filet-O-Fish, including a half slice of American cheese.
Comment loading PS, by the way.
That's right. Has not changed in decades. And they are denying that the Filet-O-Fish has shrunk in size. But people are claiming, when looking at the Filet-O-Fish sandwich, that it looks like it's getting smaller by upwards of 20%. So this would be shrinkflation, where maybe they don't raise the price, but they shrink the size of the food that you get to basically offset inflation. Now, have you noticed this on your disgusting Filet-O-Fish sandwiches that you eat once in a while, John?
Well, comment loading regarding the build. I wouldn't know because I've never had a sandwich completely put together that's centered. So I think they do an optical illusion. They use the cheese to glue the bun to the filet so you can't ever straighten it up when it's jacked up.
Wow. Spoken like someone who's really...
Then the sauce is typically off-centered, so you got to watch which way you bite, and you just got to regroup on the bottom bun anyway. So it's hard for me to say whether it's actually small, but I wouldn't put it past, since this is on TikTok, the CCP trying to undermine our belief in American institutions like McDonald's here. So, you know.
You know what? If the CCP through TikTok is secretly trying to undermine the Filet-O-Fish, then I'm all in with the CCP. All right? Arrest me and throw me in jail.
American institutions, Pete.
That's not what they're doing. That's the best thing the CCP's ever done in my book, if that's actually what they're doing. And I do like the McMinnow nickname for the Filet-O-Fish. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, you may recall I tried my first Filet-O-Fish, must have been about 2 months ago now, when I was taking Chloe. There's a McDonald's right by her swim school. So I took her there because I was knocking it. And then in fairness, I was like, well, I never had one. It just looks disgusting. So that night I got one. John swore by the Filet-O-Fish, and it was just as nasty as I would imagine. And by the way, the sandwich was like $7. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't get that baby just anywhere.
No, I clearly, and I'm not going to be getting it anytime soon. Now, let me ask you, Garner, since you're new here, are you a Filet-O-Fish guy? Normally, I would say there's no wrong answer, but there is a wrong answer if you want to keep working on the show.
Honestly, no. I used to, but man, I haven't had one since I was like 12.
So
maybe?
what happened? You got real taste buds, or what changed for you?
I don't know. I just kind of stopped eating them. When I was a kid, I would get them. My mom would get them, so I would order one when my mom would order one.
You grew up, you got a mature palate.
Yeah, I guess so.
And now you're out of the Filet-O-Fish business.
Now any fish fillet fan will know, actually, we just order them to hold up the line behind us.
Do they take longer?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's one way to go
They
about
don't
doing
sell
it.
a lot of those babies, so they're like, drop 6. We got a guy that ordered and drive-through.
Okay. All right. Well, Garner answered the question properly. You're going to be hanging on for the next few weeks since you are not a filet. You haven't had one since you were 12 years old.
Yeah, about that age. Yeah, probably about sixth grade or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened when you turned 13? You finally told your mom. You had the audacity to tell your mom, "I'm not eating this crap anymore."
No, I just never had another one. Just never got it again.
All right. Good deal. Well, a lot of stuff happens at 13. Voice drops, other things drop, and you stop telling you tell your mom you're done with the Filet-O-Fish. So that's when you become a man, right?
I guess so.
You became a man there, Garner.
About that age, yeah.
Good for you, buddy. Right about that age. Well done. All right, coming up, Ty Masterson is the Senate president in Kansas. He's going to be here because the Medicare expansion battle is going to be one of the most talked about things in the region the first half of next year. Where is the Kansas GOP on it? He'll join us next.